I never thought I'd have to write something like this. Even now, it doesn't feel real. But I need to get this out. Maybe for closure. Maybe to make sense of something that still doesn't. My family owned a landscaping business. Nothing glamorous, just honest, backbreaking work. My father built it with his bare hands back in the 80s. He gave everything to it. I grew up watching him come home sunburned, sore, and proud. That business was his life, and he made sure I knew that one day it might be mine too. A few years ago, everything started to change. My dad was diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's. His hands, once steady and strong, started to shake. His steps slowed. He didn't want to stop working, but he knew the time had come. So my brother and I stepped in. To paint the picture, my brother, let's call him Brandon, was always the golden boy. He knew how to talk, how to charm, how to light up a room. People loved him instantly. I'm not like that. I work hard. I don't chase the spotlight. I'd rather be behind the scenes making sure things actually get done. When we divided the responsibilities, it made sense, on paper. He'd handle client relationships, networking, and strategy. I'd run the operations, oversee the crews, manage the job sites. I didn't complain. I was there to work. And I worked. I worked harder than I ever had in my life. Long days, early mornings, late nights. I was out there laying sod, hauling equipment, coordinating jobs, fixing problems no one else wanted to touch. I was running on fumes most of the time, but I believed in what we were building. I believed in saving our father's legacy. Brandon, meanwhile, had the easy part, or so it seemed. He'd show up in pressed shirts, coffee in hand, and talk about branding or future expansion. He always had something vague and important on his laptop screen. I trusted him. He was my brother. I didn't think I had to second-guess him. But small things started to eat at me. A client once asked me when I planned on taking over full-time. I was confused. I'd been running the operations for months. The client looked even more confused and said, "Oh, Brandon told me you were still figuring things out." I let it go. I thought maybe Brandon misspoke. But then it happened again and again. Friends, clients, even extended family. People were under the impression that Brandon was the brains, the one doing all the heavy lifting. And I was, what? The backup? At family dinners, he'd go on about how stressful the business was, how much pressure he was under. He'd act like he was single-handedly keeping it all together. And my parents ate it up. My mom once looked at me and said, "I know you're trying your best, sweetie. Just hang in there." Like I was some lost kid tagging along. That night, something inside me cracked. I started watching more closely. Brandon would say he had client meetings, but never had specifics. He'd claim he'd landed new deals, but the contracts were ones I'd already negotiated. The guy who barely showed up at the job sites was claiming credit for everything. But despite all this, the business was doing well. We'd finally paid off our debts. We were turning a decent profit. For the first time in years, things looked good. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I started noticing Brandon acting strange. He was still putting on his usual charm, but it felt forced. He told me once, "You should take a break, man. Go somewhere. You've earned it." That should have felt supportive. Instead, it felt like a warning. Then one morning, everything changed. I walked into the office like I always did, ready to start the week. But something was off. The desks were cleared. The whiteboard where we tracked projects, erased, files, gone. It looked like someone had moved out. On my desk sat an envelope. Inside was a letter from a corporate landscaping firm. It was a formal thank you for the seamless transition of ownership. They'd bought the business, and the sale had been finalized 2 weeks ago. I didn't sell the business. I hadn't even known it was up for sale. I called Brandon. No answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. When I finally got him on the line hours later, all he said was, "Relax." It was the best move for both of us. You wouldn't have understood. I can't describe the feeling I had in that moment. Shock, betrayal, rage. He sold our family business, my life's work, behind my back, and didn't even bother to tell me until it was already gone. But that wasn't the end. I dug into the sale. The buyer's letter didn't mention how much they'd paid, which was strange. Usually, these deals are all about numbers. So I started going through the records I still had access to. What I found made my blood run cold. There were thousands of dollars in so-called consulting fees paid out to a company I'd never heard of, something called V&H Solutions. I looked it up. No website, no business profile, nothing. Eventually, I found the registration papers. The owner, Brandon. He had created a shell company. For years, he'd been funneling money from our business into this fake firm and pocketing it. Tens of thousands of dollars, stolen right under my nose. I took everything to my parents. My dad was furious. My mom didn't want to believe it. "Maybe it's a misunderstanding," she said. But I had documents. I had proof. There was no misunderstanding. That's when I knew I had to fight. I found a lawyer I trusted. I laid out everything. She told me Brandon might have broken multiple laws: fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. Even better, the sale could be challenged because all co-owners are required to sign off. He hadn't just stolen from me, he misled the buyers too. We filed suit. Once the buyer learned Brandon had lied, they froze the funds. He couldn't touch the money. I didn't confront him right away. I wanted him to feel the pressure. Word got around fast. My mom called, worried, said Brandon wasn't himself, that he was snapping at people, hiding out. Good. I kept digging. Turns out, he hadn't just stolen profits. He'd taken out loans in the company's name, money that was supposed to be for equipment, expansion, payroll. Instead, it went into his shell account. And since the loans were in the business's name, I was on the hook for half. That was the final straw. We presented everything: documents, bank statements, loan agreements, fake invoices. It was airtight. The court ruled in my favor. Brandon was ordered to repay everything: stolen funds, loan amounts, even damages. The sale was voided. The business was mine again. It wasn't perfect. I still had to clean up the financial mess he left behind. But it was a chance to rebuild. A chance to do things the right way. As for Brandon, he lost everything. The money, the reputation. Even our parents finally saw him for what he was. Last I heard, he was crashing on a friend's couch in another state, trying to start over. Do I feel sorry for him? Not even a little. He made his choices. Now he has to live with them.